Welcome. It's Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. Brad Restituto with you at Brad the Believer on Instagram and Twitter. Also, give a like and follow to the YouTube channel where we're going to broadcast some of these 15, 20-minute cuts before we relaunch the Rest Stop podcast. Brad the Believer, search that on YouTube for the YouTube channel. Let's jump right into it. Week 18 of the NFL season concluded, and we're already set and geared to go for the NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. We'll review the matchups and the teams that got there and the line against the Vegas number, tell you who we like in those matchups. We're less than 48 hours since the completion of the college football 2022 national championship, a rematch of the SEC title game between Alabama Crimson Tide and the Georgia Bulldogs. A fantastic fourth quarter from the Bulldogs and an wire-to-wire, excellent defensive performance by them, and they get the victory in their first national title under head coach Kirby Smart and trying to even the playing field in the SEC conference. Congratulations to the Bulldogs. Fantastic effort on defense, and Stetson Bennett, the walk-on quarterback, made some really big throws in that game and helped Georgia get their first national title in, I believe, over 3 decades. So congratulations to Kirby Smart, all the Georgia Bulldog fans out there. And it looks like the Bulldogs and the Crimson Tide will be the cream of the crop and the SEC and really the college football landscape for years to come. 2 fantastic coaches. Great job by Kirby building that program, getting the key players in place, and their defense looked dominant. You could really tell on the field on Monday night. So many NFL guys, the cream of the crop and the college football landscape are those 2 teams. And unfortunate injuries to 2 main players for Alabama. Williams and Michi, the wide receivers for Alabama, really played a key role in them not being able to get things going. And the Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young, just could not get a rhythm against that suffocating Georgia defense. So it was a really fun game to watch. It wasn't explosive through the first 3 quarters, a really big defensive battle. Both defenses played fantastic. Georgia was just too much at the end. And from a Vegas perspective, the Bulldogs were the favorite the entire week, and me included, along with the rest of the public. You just couldn't get enough of trying to take Alabama as an underdog. I did it, and many people did it, and it didn't come through. And Vegas was counting their money at the end of that game because usually the public play and a lot of the money goes to the favorite and the over in that matchup. In this case, when Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide are an underdog, most of that money was going from a betting perspective on Alabama, and probably a lot of people like the over, and that game fell under the total of 52.5. And Georgia was anywhere between a 2.5 and 3-point favorite for the entire week in that game. They get the win and the cover, and the Bulldogs are the 2022 college football national champions. So congratulations to them. Before we get into the NFL, a little NBA news and something a little close to me because I'm a big fan of this guy. Klay Thompson makes his return after over 2 years away from the NBA. He made his return on Sunday at Oracle at home versus the Cleveland Cavaliers to an absolutely roaring ovation. And Klay, I believe he was close to 20 points in that game. Maybe it was 17, but definitely double digits. Had a highlight dunk in that matchup. Would love to show you the highlights, but we don't have that available right now. And these are just going to be small 10, 15-minute videos before we jump back into the podcast, hopefully later in 2022, or have some more content for you. But outstanding from Klay Thompson to be back. A couple highlights there. Golden State Warriors are a top 2 seed in the NBA as we sit coming into January and February. The All-Star break will be here before you know it. And the Golden State Warriors, they lost last night to a team as hot as anybody right now, the Memphis Grizzlies. But you want to talk about the standings right now in the Western Conference. The Phoenix Suns at 31-9 are first place. 1 game behind them, Golden State at 30-10, getting Klay Thompson back. Hopefully James Wiseman back in the next month or so. The 3rd seed right now in the Western Conference, the Utah Jazz, followed by the team I just mentioned, the Memphis Grizzlies, at a 29-14 record. They've won 10 straight. They've done it with and without Ja Morant. Ja Morant had a highlight block against the Lakers the other night in a blowout victory. The Grizzlies, man, watch out for this team. They're a top 4 seed now. But they could easily be what the Portland Trailblazers were a few years ago, a team that finds their way into the Western Conference final conversation. My buddy Spencer the Wiz, diehard Memphis Grizzlies fan, he's an eternal pessimist with his Raiders, with his Grizzlies, so he'll probably disagree when I say that Memphis has a real shot to represent the Western Conference in the finals, whether it's against Golden State, who I think it will be, whether it's against Phoenix or Utah teams. The Suns have been there before. Utah can't seem to find their way in that finals conversation for the conference, even though they've had the best record at times. But Memphis is as hot as anybody and as good at it as anybody, with Taylor Jenkins calling the shots, and then Ja Morant, of course, the superstar, and the pieces that have continued to step up. Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks. I believe Steven Adams, I don't know how much he's played, but I like that trade. Of course, you hate to see Valanciunas go for the Grizzlies, but a great rim protector in Steven Adams. And Spence, coming on the comments and correct me if I'm wrong with some of these guys in this lineup, but Memphis has a real shot to be playing for one of those top 3 seeds in the Western Conference, and I think they could find themselves in the conversation representing the Western Conference in the finals come playoff time. In the Eastern Conference, Chicago Bulls currently hold the number 1 overall seed. Coming through, we're about 38, 39 games in, almost halfway through the 82-game season. The Bulls are currently at first place with this lineup: Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Vujicic, who came over from Orlando. Really solid squad in Chicago. I put a small little wager on them to win the whole thing. We'll see what happens with Chicago come playoff time. The Brooklyn Nets, who have got Kyrie Irving back on a part-time basis, they're 25-14. The Miami Heat somehow have stuck around in the top 3 conversation, which I haven't followed the NBA as close as I normally do due to the ending of the NFL season, but they've got themselves a 25-15 record and a top 3 seed in Milwaukee right behind them at 26-17. So it'll be fun to watch now that the NFL season's winding down, coming in playoff time. And before you know it, the Super Bowl will be here, and then we'll be full dive into NFL. But then, of course, Major League Baseball will be up and going again as they're dealing with a lockout. We still have the NHL season in full effect here in Las Vegas. The Golden Knights are, up and down, but of course, they're a very popular ticket here in Las Vegas. Another Las Vegas team trying to get back in the conversation had a really big win last night. That game was televised on CBS Sports Network. The UNLV Running Rebels, the college basketball program led by Kevin Kruger, son of Lon Kruger, who used to coach the team out here. They had a really impressive 20-plus point blowout against New Mexico, a conference rival in the Mountain West. A really nice performance by UNLV last night after they had a small break due to the COVID outbreak that's continuing to play a role throughout the country. It's slowing down things as we're still trying to fight back against this and live our lives as normal, but also still be safe as well. So UNLV basketball got a nice win. I believe they're 9-6 on the season, played probably their best game yet at the Thomas and Mack last night. So we'll jump right into the NFL playoffs. And I know a couple of people out there, Robo, I know you'd love us to get into some MMA talk, and we will closer to the next big card. I believe it was announced that Jorge Masvidal will be in another UFC card here coming up. So once I do some research on the upcoming cards with UFC, we'll get in that conversation. And if I've got some time to schedule, there's certainly some of my friends and colleagues here in town are really big MMA writers and followers. Maybe we can get some of them on, like the Sportsnista and possibly Jose V and some other people who really dive into the MMA, and we could talk some of the combat sports cards coming up here in Las Vegas and around the United States here in the next month or so. So jump right into the NFL playoffs. This game will be on NBC on Saturday. Our home Las Vegas Raiders, who won their way in to the playoffs at home week 18 in an instant classic against the Los Angeles Chargers, capped off at the buzzer in overtime. A Daniel Carlson field goal got the Raiders into the playoffs, and they will travel on a short week to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals after Joe Burrow sat out week 18 along with most of the other big-time players and starters. And the Bengals will be fresh and ready to go, their first home playoff game in quite some time. And Bengals fans have to be excited. The Raiders will have their hands full taking on the Bengals. The Bengals came into Allegiant Stadium earlier this year and beat the Raiders by double digits, although that game was close into the fourth quarter. Currently, the Vegas line has the Bengals as a 5.5-point favorite. I'm going to stay away from either side in this game when it comes to the point spread. Look, the Raiders are riding a lot of momentum right now, and I don't believe I've had time to talk about it on the podcast, but here locally in town, working at the Silverton, as I mentioned that I do, and other places, I've said, look, the Raiders have everything to play for this year to make history. They've had some of the biggest off-the-field distractions you can imagine that had nothing to do with them, starting from Gruden, trickling down to the players on the field like Arnett, like Ruggs. Most recently, one of their other players is just distraction after distraction. Anything that could push a team further into wanting to end this season has happened, but the Raiders have fought through it. They have an opportunity now that they're in the tournament to make some noise, and if they can do that and find themselves continuing to win games, it could end up as one of the most historic, improbable runs ever, and they would go down in the history books as a legendary team if they can find a way to continue to win games. It's not going to be easy in the AFC conference, and it starts off with a tough matchup, and they're a 5.5-point underdog against the Bengals. The thing with the Raiders that they've shown all year and what I've known is they're capable of beating anybody on any given Sunday, just like you could say that about any NFL team, but it's more serious when you're talking about most of these playoff teams. I mean, you could say that about anybody, but it usually doesn't happen. There is one team in this playoff structure that I think has a 0% chance of winning a game and moving forward. I'll tell you who that is. Other than that, I really do think it's wide open. I think the Raiders could be one of those teams that makes some noise. And it starts off with quarterback Derek Carr. He's the straw that stirs the drink. If he plays well, the Raiders usually play well. Their defense has played solid. Carr's got 23 touchdowns on the year. One of his favorite targets who's really stepped up here lately, Hunter Renfrow. Look, the Raiders have everything to be fired up about and play for this coming Saturday on the road. We'll see if they can do it. Darren Waller's back healthy. That's going to be huge. Josh Jacobs has ran the ball well for the Raiders. So I'm really excited to see how this game plays out. And the Raiders are 5-3 away from home this year. They really do have a solid road record. The weather conditions aren't going to be great, but this team can galvanize together under interim coach Rich Bisaccia. They have everything to play for and to put it all on the line here against Cincinnati and try to make a deep playoff run, which the AFC conference is ripe for the picking. So we'll see what happens here. I'll give a small lean towards the Raiders just because of the hometown bias here in Las Vegas, plus the 5.5 against Cincinnati. But I've talked about before, I think Joe Burrow is the next superstar in this league. I think he's a top 3 quarterback, possibly top 5 quarterback if you really want to get nitpicky. But his combination with Jamar Chase, got to give Zach Taylor credit for the job he's done this year as the head coach. Joe Mixon, 13 touchdowns on the year, has really stepped up, and this defense has played well. So it's going to be a really, really good game to kick off Wildcard weekend here with the NFL. Patriots Bills, the evening matchup on CBS. These teams have faced off twice in the regular season, being in the the AFC East Conference. They split the series. Of course, that game where Mac Jones only threw the ball 3 times, the Patriots got the win. Buffalo's a 4-point favorite at home, so Buffalo has a lot to play for. If you remember last year in the AFC Championship game, Stephon Diggs waited on the court after the game. Look, this team is really, really fighting, and they want to get back to being a contender in the AFC. So we'll see how that matchup takes place with the Patriots and Bills. Eagles Bucks, Tampa Bay 9-point favorite at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. Tom Brady's Tom Brady come playoff time. So we'll see how that shapes up. But I think the Eagles really have an opportunity to stay in this game, just like Washington did in the wild card round this year. The difference is the Bucs will be at home this year. Watch out for Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. This team has a real opportunity to make some noise. I wouldn't be surprised if they upset Tampa Bay, but it's Tom Brady. How could you go against them? Eventually, his run of greatness and being the best and going to every Super Bowl will come to an end. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I think the Eagles have a real shot to pull the upset and stay in this game. Here's 2 teams in the next matchup, 49ers Cowboys. I think the winner of this game has a real great shot to represent the NFC in the title game against either Green Bay or Tampa Bay, whoever you think is going to get to the title game. But I think the winner of this game has a real shot to represent in that title game and play for an opportunity to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be the 49ers. I love the Cowboys. I love Dak Prescott. I love CeeDee Lamb and what they can do, but I am that high on Kyle Shanahan as a head coach and as an offensive play caller. And I think he can really cover up that many blemishes. I think their defense is solid with Bosa rushing the passer and Armstead. I think the 49ers keep the upset rolling, even though it's a small line. Look, Vegas has these teams evenly because you give 3 points to the home team, and Dallas is only a 3-point favorite. I think the 49ers get the upset, get the road win, and they have a real opportunity to go deep in these playoffs. I think Kyle Shanahan's that good of an offensive play caller. Steelers Chiefs, the one team I think has zero chance to do anything in this playoffs are the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're extremely fortunate to even be in this playoff conversation, but here they are. And another team, it's just very ironic because I don't think the Chiefs are getting to the Super Bowl this year, even though it looks like they're going to have a layup on a platter against the Steelers and then another AFC matchup after that. But I do think the Chiefs advance. They're 12.5 points favorites. It's not like I'm going out on a limb here, but I do think the Chiefs get knocked off come the divisional round. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl this year, and I've said it on Twitter before, and I know it's a hot take, but I don't think the Chiefs are getting back and winning another Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. Not because I think Patrick Mahomes is the reason that they're not going to succeed, but I think his contract is going to limit the type of free agents you're going to be able to bring into the fold, and I don't think you're going to be able to pay Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill in the upcoming years to keep this team together. So I don't think they have enough pieces on defense. I think Patrick Mahomes has been sloppier with the football this year, and I think he's regressing back to what he's capable of being instead of being the surefire Hall of Fame superstar of superstars, which he arguably is, but he's not as good as he was the Super Bowl winning year. So I think he's coming back to the middle where he's still great. He's still a top 5 quarterback, but he's not by far and away the number one guy. And we've seen that with Aaron Rodgers showing that he probably is the number one guy, hands down, top to bottom. And of course, that's a matter of opinion. But I think the Chiefs advance this week, and I think the Steelers are the one team that has zero shot to make any noise in these playoffs. The final game of Wildcard weekend will be another divisional matchup, Cardinals versus Rams. Rams will have the home field advantage, and they'll be a 4-point favorite. Matchup of Sean McVay and Cliff Kingsbury, the two head coaches that are young and hot names. The Rams ended up winning the division. That's why they have this home game. Cooper Kupp, the superstar, arguably in the MVP conversation for the LA Rams. But I think the Cardinals get the upset here. I like Matt Stafford, but he's been a turnover machine the last month. And I think Kyler Murray is going to put it in another gear come playoff time. And I think his ability to escape the pocket, along with the Cardinals having a solid defense, and they're 8-1 away from home this year. I think the Cardinals get the upset win against the Rams, and the Rams go home early. So look, we're going to have more content on the YouTube channel, Brad the Believer on Instagram and Facebook. Look, guys, continue to give us some feedback on some of the content you want us to talk about, you want me to talk about. We'll definitely hit it. We'll hit some MMA next time. We'll talk more stuff going on here locally in Las Vegas and everything else across the sports landscape. And if there's anything you want to hit non-sports related, we'll absolutely talk about. And once we get a relaunch of the podcast, it'll definitely be more diverse than just the sports take. So I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Stay safe out there, and we'll check in with you next time. Have a great one, guys.